Welcome to the Growth Over Grades podcast, where we talk about education ideas and topics that matter most to our Spaces EDU educator community. I'm your host, Melody McAllister, educator advocate for Spaces EDU, your solution for digital documentation and assessment of student learning for all. At the beginning of each episode, I like to feature an amazing member in our community. Today, I want to honor Stacy Krata-Chaville, and I apologize if I said your name incorrectly. But Stacy recently shared how she celebrates growth over grades with her students in PE. She shared she is slowly shifting mindsets as she has shifted from grading a final run on standard times to having students set goals, track their progress, modify their goals, increase distance, and then create their own rubric to grade themselves. She says it's more of a focus on process than product. I was blown away by Stacy's response this week in our community, and it reminded me of our guest today, Dr. Randall Sampson. Dr. Sampson is a dedicated leader in education who has founded hashtag Personalized PD, and he is the author of Welcome to the Grind, How Educators Achieve Exponential Results. I've had the honor of seeing Dr. Sampson in action, and he wants all of us to focus on the process to become the champions we are meant to be. He regularly shares it's not about the end goal, it's about how we get there. When we as teachers can adopt this mindset, we pass it on to our students as well. When I was listening to him on the Tech Roadshow that we were both part of recently, he brought his heavyweight belt and let educators hold it and share the things that they were great in. These educators glowed when sharing, and they were very special moments. Our guest today has a way of amplifying the work of educators while also pushing them to be even greater. I'm so grateful to call him friend, and I can verify that he lives out his message. I've been a recipient of his wisdom, and I am better for it, like so many others. Dr. Randall Sampson, it is an honor to have you as a guest today. How are you, and can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Melody. What people have to realize is that you are absolutely amazing. You are the best connector in the entire world. Spaces EDU is so lucky to have you, and you have grown this community exponentially. And everywhere you're going, you are just setting it all on fire, and people are excited about you and what Spaces EDU can do for them. This
Thank
is
you.
amazing. So I really wanted to start this off with talking about you and the great things that you're doing. So we're just grateful to have you. Thank you for having me on your show. My name is Randall Sampson. I'm from the Columbus, Ohio area in the Midwest. And we spread all over the country, spreading the good news. And the good news is that teachers are doing well. Teachers are amazing. Teachers are empowering their kids. Teachers provide great learning opportunities for their kiddos. And teachers really challenge the kids to grow. And that's what it's all about. And my main focus, I own my own consulting company, so Liberty Leadership Development. I own my own consulting company, and I used to be a teacher, school administrator, work for a philanthropy group, and all of the kind of good stuff. And now we just focus on closing that achievement gap, making sure that we close that gap. And the number one way to close that gap is to have this champion mindset and champion for kids, and having this ability to think that champions love the process. It's all about that process.
I love that. And I just feel like it was thank you so much for that sweet, for the compliments. Thank you and the encouragement. I appreciate you. But I loved how it all flowed together because when I think of the process, when I think of champion building, like I think of you. So can you tell us a little bit more about what this champion culture is all about?
Yeah, so it's really the mindset, right? So it's this mindset of loving what you do and loving who you are, and having this great mindset that we're developing in kids. We're not instilling a mindset, we're
Mm,
developing, and we're allowing them to grow into their mindset. So there are some key practices that the kids have to accomplish in that champion culture to really start to work on who they are. And I really boil it down to three things, because people always say, what is champion culture? What does that look like, sound like, feel like? And I was recently at the airport going through TSA. And usually when you go through, you check your bags, you scan all your stuff. If there's something in there, they pull you over, and this, that, and the other. And so the lady pulled me over because I had this with me. And so the TSA lady said, hey, what's this all about? What is this thing? And I see your hat says champion culture, and champions love the process. And so she says, what's the process? I just want to know what the process is. What's this champion culture thing about? And so she was like the supervisor for TSA. And at first I thought I was going to go to that dark room in the back somewhere with the rubber hose, but that wasn't the case. So the lady says, what is it? So I tell her, I said, it comes down to three things, right? It's about showing up. So when you show up, you're present, right? And the present isn't just a physical thing. being at school with attendance, the present is also an emotional thing. Being present in your own emotions, in your own feelings, in your own self, having that confidence. So you have to show up for yourself every single day. You're not showing up for the teacher, for your parents, for the kid next door. You are showing up for yourself. And that's the same thing with adults. As teachers, we have to show up and be present. And one of the principals that I mentor and work for in Columbus City Schools here in Columbus, Ohio, he is the area principal of the year, and he is the Ohio OAPSE, Ohio Association of Black School Educators, statewide principal of the year. And he has zero days missing from work all year last,
Wow.
coming off the pandemic, 0 days missing, because he wanted to show up for his teachers and be that support system. So showing up is the number one thing. And so I tell the lady at TSA, it's all about showing up. And then the second part of the three is, so you show up. The second part is really pivotal. Be kind.
Mm,
Be kind. Being kind doesn't cost much. And
right.
once again, we think about being kind to other people, but it's also about being kind to yourself. Positive self-talk, positive
Mm,
reassurance, visualizing yourself winning at your goals. So
mm,
being kind to yourself is just as critical. And so we have the self-care component. So being kind to yourself is just as critical. And so you build self-care into your work environment, into your school. And one of the schools that I work with, they have a relaxation zone, an old book storage area, because we moved to Chromebooks. An old book storage room got gutted out. The teachers got on Amazon. They had the ability to choose. So they chose recliners that they wanted.
mm.
They got the little waterfall things that they wanted. They got some Zen music. They got the lights like you have in the back. And then they just sign up for 15-minute intervals. So during the day, if they need 15 minutes, the principal will show up to their room. The teacher will go and have their Zen time, just their self time, their own time to be kind to themselves for 15 minutes and just relax. And they have a clipboard where they all sign up and so forth. So that's the be kind component. So I'm telling the TSA lady, so it's the be kind. And then the third and most critical, so it's show up, be kind, and do your job. That's
Nice.
simple. Do your job. So you run your lane and you run it hard. As we all know, inside of schools, it's easy to get outside of your lane and get into somebody else's business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we tell the kids all the
Mm-hmm.
time, right? Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I know that Johnny did something or Susie did something, but just run your own lane and run it hard and figure out how you're going to be a better version of you today. And that's the component that we're talking about when we say do your job. How can I become a better version of me today in this moment? And if I'm not at this moment, I always have the rest of the day to reset. So every 5 minutes, I can reset and be the best version of me. And that includes the adults. Sometimes
Yeah.
we mess up as educators, as principals, as leaders, as teachers, as parents. And so we also tell the kids the same thing. You can always get better. Just reset. You might have, tripped up and fumbled at some moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just do your job and everything will be okay. So I tell the TSA lady this, and all of a sudden, she shuts down the entire TSA check-in process for everybody. And she calls all of the workers over, like at Walmart when they do the circle time. So she calls them all over and says, hey, this guy has 3 things to tell you about champion culture. And she says, tell him. I said, well, show up, be kind, and do your job. And she says, see. That's the culture we want around here, people. That's the culture we want. Everybody go back to work now. And I was like, whoa, I just had an airport PD session about culture and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So it
That's
transfers to everything in life. And that's kind of what it's all about.
that's incredible. I can't even imagine. That is really incredible, and it was free. Thank
And it
you.
was free.
Yeah. How
Well,
did you?
I figured I
What?
better make it free, because if not, they're gonna put me in that back room somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. What did you say with the rubber hose?
Yeah.
How did you develop your like? How did you develop your champion culture?
Yeah, so it's one of the things that over time I've always coached athletics. I've been involved in athletics, played football, wrestled, all of the good stuff, basketball, all the stuff growing up as a kid. And those were always the components that were ingrained in me by my athletic coaches. And then I'm like, as an adult, I'm like, wow, that stuff transfers to life. to
Yeah.
classrooms. So coach always said, if you're 10 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. So you have to show up way ahead of time to be on time. So always be present, is, always think about your time management,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the other component is, I've been a captain on football teams all my life. I've always been that dude, right? And like the young kids say, I'm him. I think that's what they say nowadays. I'm him, that kind of stuff, right? So being a captain, it's never really about you being the captain. I figured that out over time as I kept going and getting older and so forth. Being a captain is about other people. How do you
Mm.
amplify and encourage other people and get people lined up to do the stuff that we need to do to win together? And it's not about getting outside of your lane, but it's about helping and steering people in the right direction when they need it. Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I picked it up as a kid coming up, as a young adult moving through, and then also getting into education where I was teaching in the classroom, school administration, and all this other stuff. And then the other part was just do your job. You know, if you're playing athletics, or if you're an administrator in your building, or if you're a teacher in your classroom, or if you're a kid sitting at the desk, you have to be able to do your job, whatever the task is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Dick Elmore from Harvard had the greatest saying ever that says, task predicts performance. So whatever task you're working on, it will predict your performance. If you're working on low level tasks, you're going to have low level performance. So you
Mm-hmm.
really have to do your job and strain and do the job the best that you can at that moment, and give a lot of effort and really push through it, and it will predict your performance. So if we give a whole bunch of DOK, depth of knowledge one, tasks in school, don't be upset with the results that you want that you did not
Right.
practice for. If the state test is DOK 3, or the assessment is a DOK 4, and you're practicing DOK 1, don't be upset with the results that you didn't get, because the task predicts performance.
Yeah. If you want students to think for themselves or to really think, then you've got to give them those opportunities. I love that.
That's right.
And I love this because I know that you actually live this out. I mean, just today your own daughter was making a PR. Just she's a champion. Do you also, like, is this part of your family life too? And I know I didn't prep you with this, but it's just so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's kind of part of my family life, because when dad, you know how it is. Well, when dad says it, oh, I don't know, I don't think you know what you're talking about, dad. That's just not how it is. And then somebody else gets on, and they're online talking about it. Like, dad, did you hear what they said? Oh my gosh, this is good stuff. I'm like, yeah, yeah, we kind of talk about it. So I give it to them in spurts and small doses. And like you said, my daughter, she won the Ohio Capital Conference 100-meter championship today for the conference 2023 conference for the Capital Division. So it's three divisions. It's Capital, and I think it's Capital, Central, and Buckeye. Something. There's three divisions,
Hmm.
but she won the division. So we're just happy about that, right? And we celebrate
Hmm.
the moment, and then you think about the next thing. You celebrate the moment. You're always living the moment, but you always have your eye and ball on the next thing.
I like that. I like that. That's so good. Like, I feel like every time I'm around you, I just am soaking in all this wisdom. And I know, since I'm not your kid, I know that you're speaking the truth out there. But I guess my children are the same way. So totally. Something that
We,
you
we should
also,
we should like do, like, exchanges. Like, if I have something to say to my kids, I'll be like, you know what? Why don't you just call Aunt Melanie, and she'll talk to you. And then same with you. Just say, call Uncle Randall. He'll talk to you about something. And we'll play
I'm
it
going
that
to do
way.
that. I'm
Yeah.
totally going to do that. Like, that would actually work. I would love that. And only because relationships, this is incredible. When I read about you, like if I go on an internet search for Dr. Randall Sampson, I'm going to come across welcome to the grind. I'm going to come across focus, the process, and relationships. And we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but how, and some people, I have actually heard this lately, they're like, oh my God, can we stop talking about relationships? I'm so sick of talking about relationships. But number one, I don't think we should, because how are relationships tied in with student achievement and success? And is it the same for teachers?
Yeah, so the people that say relationships, I'm so tired of talking about it in schools. It's getting old, this, that, and the other. So those are the same folks that I would ask, do you want to buy a home next to the nuclear plant, right?
Right.
So as everybody knows, in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. That never stops. But nobody ever stops talking about this location. I got this beachfront location. I've got this great property of land that sits on the crown. I've got this, property that's amazing as far as the location. The location has this great curb appeal. All of this stuff, right? So when it comes to monetary value of stuff, it's all about location, location, location. When it comes to monetary value or educational value, our thing is all about relationships, relationships, relationships. It
Mm,
has to be. It has to be. And sometimes people get it convoluted where they think that it's all about the adult to student relationship. It's really about the student to student relationship.
mm,
We have to have a system where students are supporting, pulling, and pushing each other, right?
yeah.
So here's an example. I had a high school that I used to work at as a school administrator. We had a 600% increase of African American students in AP classes in 1 year at a suburb here in central Ohio. And I would pull in the kids, have conversations with them, be like, hey, look, you're signing for honors classes. And I noticed you didn't sign up for the AP classes. Why or why not? And then I would go through the process with them. Then they would say, oh, I didn't realize I could sign up for AP class. Then they sign up. And so I said, it's your job now as a junior and a senior to mentor the freshmen and the sophomores to make sure that they are getting themselves in honors classes and pushing to get to AP classes. It's your job as a young African American male or female to do this. It
Mm,
can't be my job to pull everybody in, right?
mm,
So now you are growing exponentially. And the best part about this was I'm walking down the hallway one day and I probably saw one of the most severe bullying cases I thought I
mm.
saw. And there was a group of 4 or 5 African American kids had a freshman and a sophomore up against the lockers, right? Not physically, but they just kind of surrounded them. And backpack was laying on the ground, papers are all over the place. And I walk up and I'm like, hey, gentlemen, what is going on? This is unacceptable. We don't, that's not our culture. That's not what we do. And they looked at me and they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what are you guys doing? And they said, well, we told them to get out their registration forms because we wanted to check to make sure that they signed up for honors and AP classes for next year. I said, hey, the culture of academic press is what got started, right? And so
Mhm.
now everybody knows that if you're walking down the hallway and you're capable, a junior or a senior could pull you over and have some very interesting conversation with you to make sure that you have your AP or honors classes registered and that you're pushing yourself and pressing yourself to be the very best. And if you don't, hey, all you have to do is explain why or why not. And it's not a defensive mechanism as if you're not good or bad or whatever it is. But now you're building a culture where people are caring for each other. They're looking out for each other. They're pushing each other to get better. We have the exact same thing when we're talking about baseball, basketball,
Mhm.
football, dance, track, all the other stuff, music, band, all the other stuff. People are helping each other along the way. So academically, we should be able to set up a culture like that as well.
Gosh, that's incredible. I get goosebumps. I kinda knew where you were going with that, but it was a little scary.
Yeah.
And I think what you mentioned is absolutely different from what other people say. It just it's the missing piece, the student to the student. That's what really makes that community, but really makes the culture actually real and makes it what you said, the champion culture. Without that component, student relationships with other students, pushing each other up. I mean, you wouldn't have it. I mean, that's where the culture is real and it's working. So that's incredible.
And
And it
that's
goes
how
back.
people. That's right. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
No, I mean that's just how people get frustrated, right? And the adults in the buildings get frustrated because they want to try all these things out with the culture. They want to talk to the kids. They want to hang out with the kids. They want to do all these activities with the kids. But when they start to realize that the toxicity in the culture could be the peer-to-peer relationship,
Yeah.
that's the part that we're missing. So the toxicity in the school culture could be the peer-to-peer relationship. Notice how I said peer-to-peer, because
Mm,
peer-to-peer could also mean adult peers to adult peers. It could also mean parents who are in different groups to other parents. It
Mm-hmm.
could also mean the custodians and the lunch ladies or the lunchmen or the, and so forth. So it's all of these dynamics that we really have to cultivate.
Yeah. Do you feel like if like to have this culture, the teachers also have to have like that relationship, not just with the students, but with each other? You've kind of mentioned that, but it has to be like on all levels, right?
Oh, absolutely. It has to be on all levels, all the way across. When I was teaching in Johnson Park Middle School in Columbus, when I first started out teaching, our school culture was so tight, and the adults were so together and aligned and in step with each other.
Mm,
It was scary. And here we are, 25 years later, 24 years later, whatever that number is. We are still connected, whether it's Twitter, Instagram,
mm,
Facebook. Those folks that I taught with, whether they're retired or on the same track I'm at, or they paused for a little bit and came at whatever their circumstances in life, we are still together.
mm-hmm.
I know their kids, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles. So we have this connection and this bond, and they're not even family or related to me. But at work, we became so tight knit that our relationships have grown over time.
That's incredible. Wow. Yeah, like I feel like we could just do a whole entire series on just that, and
Oh
we
yeah,
might have to. We might have to come back and revisit that.
absolutely.
But yes, but also I want to know, because this is work that you do. How do you, and this is part of the culture work, how do you help districts align their missions and their goals? How do you make it more than just words?
Yeah. So oftentimes we have these amazing catchphrases, these amazing platitudes of vision and mission. All kids will learn, and this, that, and the other, right? And
Right.
as the old saying often goes, the proof is in the pudding.
Hmm.
So if you're from Missouri, or people out there who are from Missouri, it's the show me state. So
Yep.
show me, hey, somebody,
Yep.
at least one person in this broadcast is from Missouri, and that person has on a red shirt with some Christmas lights behind them.
Well, and this is actually it's not Kansas City affiliated, but I do like the color red for those reasons.
Yep, yep. So it's the show me state. So
Hmm.
yes, we have the latest and greatest things that districts are doing right now. They have what we call portrait of a learner, or portrait of a graduate, or it's
Hmm.
something like that, right?
Hmm.
So with that said, that is great. Now you can use Spaces EDU to kind of measure your portrait of a learner to see how active those goals really are. What
Hmm.
does that look like in action, right? So, in
Hmm.
my mind, what I do with personalized PD, which is another component we'll talk about in a second, but folks are able to capture, curate, and share the mission and vision in action, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever you assign your portrait of a learner goals as, or the pillars that you create, or the foundational blocks that you have for portrait of a learner or portrait of a graduate. Okay, that sounds great. It's great words on paper, on glossy flat paper. But with Spaces now, with Spaces ED, you can put those into categories, and people can actually start to curate those items in there. And you can see the mission and the vision in action. You can see the portrait of a grad, the components that you made up in action. So you can put in various artifacts, various learning activities, various student voice and student choice components in there to see it in action. Now you can actually measure it over time, and you can see which components were really heavy at, which components were light on, or
Right.
which specific kids from which specific households or zip codes or IEPs or non-IEPs, or any way you want to disaggregate the data. You can see what components folks are really leaning towards, and what
Yeah.
they have to develop more over time, and what they have to enhance over time.
Yeah. All right. And that wasn't even, I didn't even pay you to say that. That was incredible. And you're right. And I love how it's like you want to see, that's how you track the data, but it's all about them. It's not about standardized tests that really
Well,
tell you nothing. Well, they tell you something, but they don't tell you anything that is applicable to what we want for our students. So I love that you're able to help districts make those missions meaningful by putting in realistic steps. And thank you so much. Yes, Spaces EDU can definitely help you with that for the portrait of a learner. And to get to that, you talked about personalized hashtag personalized PD. How come that is so important to you?
Yeah, so personalized PD is it's all about the individual, right? So personalized professional development. So the PD is professional development. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we have professional development experiences where you go to a conference or you go to a session at your building or you go online and you do something like this.
Yeah.
So this is great learning, and people will sit there like it's church on Sunday in the front pew, and they'll nod their heads and clap, and everything's great. The keynote speaker was fire. That's what the kids call it. That's fire. And so, all of the kind of good stuff, people stomp their feet and clap their hands, and it was so inspirational. And then they get back to the classroom. What are
Right.
you doing to transfer the learning to action
Right.
steps into the classroom? That's where the personalized PD comes in. So the personalized PD is about taking your Twitter experiences. It's about taking your conference experiences and putting it all into a curation platform. And then once you curate it all, you submit that curation for grad credit. And it's very simple. And that's through my process. You submit it for grad credit, depending on the state that you're in or the school district that you're in, your local bargaining and all that kind of good stuff. So you can have pay increases for your grad credits and get your license renewed through your state agency. And it's all about the stuff that you're already doing. It's the application of knowledge, the application of these skills in your classroom. So basically, you're running your own action research. So, hey, I learned this stuff at a conference. I'm going to try it out and see what it looks like, see if it works. I'm going to be daring. If I fail, guess what? Now I failed forward instead of sitting back and doing nothing, which I'll always fail backwards on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now it's an opportunity to learn and get better at your craft. That's what personalized PD is all about. So I'm going to go into a Twitter chat and I'm going to curate all of my tweets in that chat, submit it for grad credit. That's learning. So
Yeah.
I created some dynamic lessons. I'll put them all into my curation tool. Boom, submit that. That's learning. So all of these things that you're doing constantly in your classroom, all the projects that kids turn in electronically, you put that into a curation and boom, hey, we're doing Steam, Stream, or whatever components you're doing in your district. Boom, this is what the kids are doing, the great innovation that's happening. Put it in there, submit it for credit, and I'm done. That's it. And you also share it with a greater audience or the rest of the world. Now, folks who are out there ignorant about education, who just think teachers are sitting back on their fannies, eating bonbons, sitting at the pool for 4 months throughout the year, on vacation all the time, and school is out, so they're just at the school building chilling that Monday when you don't have school. Now we have artifacts to show people that no, our education process is for real. We are the real deal, and we provide all of these unique things. And now the legislator who makes all these changes in legislation, they never enter a school. With personalized
Right.
PD, we have an opportunity to take school to them, to be proactive. We have an opportunity to show people, hey, we're not just sitting in some dark closet thinking about indoctrinating kids. That's not
Right.
what we do. That's not what we
Mm-mm.
signed up for. We are here to help kids and provide kids with opportunities to learn the best that they can. And now we
Mm-hmm.
can curate that to show the world the great things that kids are actually doing versus the perceived boogeyman that teachers are becoming in a wrongful, hateful, political spin that's out there for folks, right? So we
Right.
really want to make sure that personalized PD is all about that teacher's great experience with their kiddos.
Gosh, I love that so much. I feel like sitting here with you for the last 30 minutes, I'm a champion. And I don't mean that lightly, but
You
I
are.
mean that like everything that you're saying resonates. It really does fuel me up. And the expectations for yourself, I know the bar is very high, and you bring that in through the relationships that you have with educators, that you have with leaders, and that you have with students. And it all comes together. It's so incredible. And that really truly is what we want society to see, that we want our communities to see, and that the drivel that is being spoken by politicians who are never in our classrooms or in our school buildings, that would have they would have no light because of all the good stuff that is happening with this champion culture inside of our buildings. Gosh,
Absolutely.
it's been great. I love this so much. I hate that I hate that it has to end. But I do want to respect your time. And before we say goodbye to everybody, I want to ask you, What is some wisdom that you'd like to share today with other educators? And it can have, you've already shared a lot, so don't get me wrong. I mean, this has been full of wisdom, but what is just something that's been on your mind? Maybe it has something to do with like what's happening in the world, but just something that you wish that everybody would know, or that, yeah, just something you'd like to share.
Yeah, so one of my big things that I always share with folks, regardless of what's going on in your life, whatever's going on in the world, there's one thing that you can always do. That is to be your own champion. Anytime that you feel down, up, upside down, sad, sideways, or even happy, just make sure that you're championing yourself first. Like the old saying goes, if you're on an airplane that's going down and the oxygen's released, put the oxygen mask on first before you try to help somebody else out. So that's what we have to start thinking about being a champion is. You have to be your own champion, champion yourself, because if you're not in a good place and you can't champion yourself, there's no way every single day that you show up in your classroom with 25 kids that you can champion them. There's
Right.
no way that you go into a faculty meeting with your colleagues and you can champion them if you're not even championing yourself. So always, always, always put yourself first as in regards to being your own champion. Take care of your own self-care. Feel worthy, feel like you belong. You're going to make a difference in the lives of kids every single day. And once you have that feeling and the skills and the capability to do it, now you can champion for those kids. Now you can champion for those families. But always make sure that you take care of yourself, that you are in a good place at all times.
I love that. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, whether you've been watching this live or you watch the replay. This has been an incredible episode with you, Dr. Randall Sampson. I will drop his book in the show notes, and I hope that you were as inspired as I was. But let's keep the conversation going. Join our community on Facebook, and we will keep talking. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.